Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Village of Fredonia regular meeting of the Board of Trustees on this Tuesday, November 12, 2024 at 7 p.m. I'm Mayor Michael J. Ferguson. We want to explain that we are in the court on the third floor. The reason being is there are many activities, including a planning board meeting going on in the building. So the setup is a little bit different than what we're used to. When you do come up to speak, we're going to ask that you come up next to this wonderful pole that was designed conveniently in the middle of the room, and so that not only the people who are here tonight can hear you, but also the trustees can hear you as well. So I call this meeting to order on Tuesday, November 12, 2024 at 7 p.m. Let's roll call the trustees. Trustee Brockler? Here. Trustee Twitchell? Here. Trustee Esperson? Here. Trustee Syracuse?
Here.
Trustee Wendell?
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, before we get started,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we table the last resolution, and it's not because I'm not in favor of forestry management, but I think there are a lot of questions still we need to have answered. I've been in contact with the environmental sciences and the geology professors, and they would like to speak with us. We're having a meeting with them next week anyway. They also indicate that they have the landslide map that I've seen that shows areas of the most recent landslides, and the map doesn't have any vegetation on it, so it's pretty clear where those areas are. There's a preliminary erosion prediction map that they're updating currently, and I'm going to pronounce this word wrong, I apologize. A bathymetry study that'll show hopefully what the actual volume of the reservoir is at this time. I've also called the Western New York DEC forestry manager. I'm waiting for a call back from him. I want to get his opinion of best practices for forestry management in Western New York. He's familiar with the reservoir. He's been up there before, so he has familiarity with it, and I would like his input. So I just think that we have a lot of homework to do before we go forward with that.
well, on that same subject, I called Forcon yesterday and today, and we're playing tag with phone calls because we were both in meetings all day long. Apparently, and I haven't seen the second contract, there are two signed contracts in this village from two separate mayors. We know for a fact one of those contracts were paid and the work was never executed, and I need to find out before we go any further with this as to whether the second contract was indeed paid as well. They were both by previous administrations dating all the way back to 2019 and the last previous administration as well. So with that, Trustee Esperson has a motion to table this until further information can be provided.
Second.
Second. Trustee Twitchell?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Thank you. That doesn't mean if you're not here to speak tonight, if you are here to speak tonight on that subject, we would still want to hear from you. So please feel free to speak freely. Approval of minutes.
Whereas members of this board have read the official minutes of the Board of Trustees regular meeting of October 28th, 2024. Now therefore, be it resolved that the board hereby approves the minutes as entered into the official minutes, and be it further resolved that the reading of the minutes be dispensed with.
I second this.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell?
Aye.
This portion of the meeting is for public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak, once recognized, shall stand at the microphone and state their name and address. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes if speaking for themselves, or 5 minutes if speaking on behalf of a group. I will ask the speakers to refrain from remarks that are in poor taste slanderous, or not germane to any action taken or contemplated by the board.
Do we have the list?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mark Twitchell.
Thank you. The great thing about the seeker is that it doesn't actually stop any municipality from going forward with any project that they wish to do. It merely says that they have to consider the environmental law as they're doing it. So my comments often reference the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Seeker Handbook, which outlines the procedures by which the board must consider whether the proposed logging of the reservoir may have a negative impact. The board has the authority to determine that the proposed project has none. You may say that there's no negative impact because after all, it's a type 2 action. And you can look it up in the list in the handbook and you'll find that a type 2 action doesn't require a seeker review. You needn't even give a positive or negative declaration on this proposed action. That said, there are still important facts to consider and procedures to follow, even if the board believes that Forcon will follow all state environmental regulations. The handbook states that critical environmental areas must be considered when determining the possible impacts of a proposal. The DEC classifies the reservoir and its watershed as a Class A water body, which protects it as a drinking water source. The reservoir is also a historic resource. Page 192 of the handbook states that a historic resource must be considered in making decisions which may have environmental impact. As written, the resolution, which thankfully has been tabled, does not meet the standards of determining type 2 actions. Page 171 of the handbook states that type 2 actions should be noted in the resolution, and they should cite the action as it appears in the handbook's list of type 2 actions. I've reviewed both the Forcon proposal and the wording of tonight's resolution. The word reservoir does not appear in either, nor is there a reference to seeker in either. The proposal appears to reassure village officials that Forcon knows what they're doing and that there is no need for board members to perform due diligence. The resolution reads as if citizens recall the logging initiative 3 years past and that they have no concerns for the net financial benefit of the proposal. Perhaps that was enough for previous approvals to log the reservoir. After all, this is not the first time the reservoir has been logged. But given the more recent concern for the reservoir's health and this board's court-determined failure to follow seeker procedures, this might be a good time to step back, which I think we have done, and listen to environmental scientists and environmental legal experts. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's anybody here who has not signed up yet and wants to speak, please feel free to step up and do so. Sam Draper.
I had two subjects that I wanted to address the board with. One is, I understand that the LaBelle engineers are going to look into an option of purchasing water with the town of Pomfret. They haven't made a decision, as I understand it, but they're going to look into that, as I understand it. But there's things to consider when purchasing water from Pomfret. Pomfret doesn't produce any water. Pomfret would need to purchase water from the county water district. However, the county water district doesn't produce any water. So the county water district in turn would need to purchase water from the city of Dunkirk. This means that the ultimate consumer, the homeowner, would be subject to expenses incurred in rate changes from 4 municipalities: the city of Dunkirk, the county water district, the town of Pomfret, and the village of Fredonia. All 4 municipalities would have expenses in selling water that will need to be paid. Further confusing is that the village is under contract to provide water to residents of the town of Pomfret under contract. These contracts involve many water consumers in the town of Pomfret. If the village buys water from Pomfret, the village will then be providing Pomfret water districts with water it purchases from Pomfret. This is getting confusing to me. The current village board discussions exclude the village from producing any water. so that the contracts with Pomfret would need to be amended to release the village from any obligation to provide Pomfret with water. There's much study that needs to be done on this matter. The second matter I'd like to address is the reservoir, asking for Forcon to proceed with an agreement regarding forestry. The resolution doesn't state when the contract was approved or the major obligation of Forcon or the cost. Have board members reviewed that contract, which is about 6 years old? Was Forcon paid for its report? How much? The board is not obligated or bound by the previous board where no action has been taken. To timber the watershed can be a detriment to the reservoir and ought to be avoided. Has DEC been consulted? I don't believe so. Read, I gotta read the, I'm getting a call. Let me just turn this off, excuse me. It's my son. If you do a simple Google search and check the internet, you can see the bad aspects of timbering near a water supply. This is just a quick outline. Trees should not be planted or allowed to grow on dams, we know that. Clear-cutting forests could threaten water quality. Removing every tree or most trees also increases erosion, resulting in water with greater soil sediment and turbidity levels, and a greater need for quality of water. Trees and brush that blow down can cover large holes in the embankment surface that will be weakened by removing of the trees. Anyways, if you check Google and read these things, you'll see there's a lot of detriment to timbering near a water supply. There's no need, the money is not worth it. It's better to keep our reservoirs clean as possible because we may use that as the alternative for our water supply. This is not the time to timber our reservoir and do anything that may be a detriment to the quality of water to our village residents.
Thank you, Sam.
Sam, just to be clear, there's been no discussions about buying water from Pomfret. I don't know. They're not looking. That's not in their
Was it
project.
purchasing it from
From
the
the
district?
North County Water District, not from the town of Pomfret.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not been considered. It's not been a
So
discussion.
a line would not run into Pomfret's line.
I'm not saying that won't happen, but we're not buying. I don't know where the lines would run. That's up the engineers figure that out.
But the way it was presented is the line would connect to the town of Pomfret line, which in turn receives water from the county water district.
Right, because they're going to be buying water from the North County Water District as well, but we are not buying water from the town of
The
Pomfret.
point I'm making, if you buy water from Pomfret,
We're not buying it from Pomfret.
well, Pomfret gets its water from the county water district, correct?
They will be.
And-
They get it from us currently.
Yeah, but they'll be receiving it from the county water district. The county water district in turn receives it from the city of Dunkirk.
Right.
You've got 3 municipalities right there. They'll be charging rate charges, increasing costs to the village.
The only thing
And
I'm
it'll
trying
be
to
out
say,
of our
the
control.
only thing I'm trying to say is we are not buying water from Pomfret. That is not anything under consideration.
Is the water going to go through a Pomfret pipe?
I'm not an engineer. I haven't.
So you don't know for sure.
No, I don't know for sure.
Okay,
Sam, 'cause
well,
I'm not going to pretend I know where the pipes are going to go. I'm not an engineer.
Well, you don't know for sure.
I know
So
for
if
sure
it-
we're
if
not
it
buying
does-
water from them.
Let's assume
This
that
isn't supposed to be a back
Yeah.
and forth. Let's
Obviously,
give the
folks,
public back their
This is all going to
time.
be studied during the course of the study. So we're well ahead of this, but we understand and respect both sides. We have more speakers, please. Thank you very much. Jonathan, the town of Pomfret.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to come to the board tonight and speak. I'm here to talk about the idea of timber harvest at the Fredonia Reservoir property. My name is Jonathan Townsend. I'm a neighboring landowner of the reservoir property. My wife and I operate Royal Fir Nursery at 8852 and 8888 Glasgow Road. And I have over 2 decades of experience in land management and conservation, biological surveys, and invasive species control. And I'm extremely concerned to learn that this has come up as an option again for the reservoir property. I have submitted written comments, but I wanted to make sure I came up and spoke for a few minutes just to strongly reiterate my recommendation that you not proceed with a timber harvest. the information that just came to light about the studies that SUNY Fredonia has been doing on the landslide prone areas and the erosion prone areas makes it even more concerning to me that this has become such a potential issue of concern that it's caused you to pause and take a step back and consider. So erosion and landslides are one of the main issues with this timber harvest, but there's also forest health and invasive species to consider. This forest is an ecological gem in the region. As a biologist, I can talk your ear off about how special that forest is. It's a very beautiful place. So I don't want to see the forest harmed, and I don't want to see Fredonia put their water resources at jeopardy with an kind of poorly thought out timber harvest. But I don't want to be an obstacle either. I'm not here to just tell you what you shouldn't do. I would love to work with the Village of Fredonia and the board and anyone else to try to conserve this property and create potential for revenue streams for the village without cutting trees. So you can enroll this property. There's many large, beautiful trees. They store a lot of carbon, and there's carbon sequestration programs that you can pursue that provide a per acre annual bit of revenue for the village without cutting any trees. And that opens up more funding to protect the forest. If you, for example, don't use the reservoir for a water resource in the future, you can still use that for passive recreation and things like that for the community, still while maintaining a revenue stream from a carbon sequestration program. And as a final suggestion, I would say if the village does want to get into the timber business, there's plenty of timberland in Western New York to select from, and there's programs out there through New York State and other entities to purchase these lands, create what they call community forests, which are municipality-owned forests that the municipality gets the revenue from the timber harvest, and in the process, you're able to demonstrate best management practices and sustainability and things like that. So it's kind of a win-win for the community and the region as well. And you're also maintaining forest in working order. So my suggestion is if the village wants timber revenue, buy an appropriate forest that's suited for timber harvests, not the reservoir lands. And thank you very much. Let me know if I can do anything to help you in the future.
Do me a favor before you leave tonight, or before we leave, you can leave us your contact information.
Yes, actually I have this has my phone number, email, and address if you want to come to my house.
Thank you for calling. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Margaret Urban.
Hello, my name is Margaret Urban. I reside at 6 Bryant Place in Fredonia. I teach design at the university. I also just completed my doctorate in transition design, which it's okay if you don't know what that is, but essentially I study the relationship of people to trees and forests. And so I am here to speak about the forest or the logging plan. And I'm very glad to hear that you're stepping back and doing a more circumspect look at the actual consequences of it and benefits. But what I'd like to add to this or say is, first, why are you logging the forest around the reservoir? What is the management plan goal? Is it for timber harvest, for money? Is it for the health of the forest? Is it for the natural or the species that are there? If it is to maintain the health of the forest, the cost of the harvest will likely not outweigh the profit, or will outweigh the profit, I'm sorry, of that you could gain for the town. And if it is for profit, that's going to end up clearing off a lot of the trees, which will have major consequences. One, it will increase runoff and siltation. Two, siltation will place a strain on the already taxed filtration system. Three, the volume will be further reduced. We know it's needed to be dredged for, over almost half a century now. And it will increase the danger of overtopping for a dam that is listed as being dangerous by New York State. And then this is at the same time that storms are becoming supercharged because of the increased ability of the atmosphere to hold water because of global heating. Snow is not sticking around. We get huge snowstorms and it almost immediately runs off, which is a major problem compared to slow melting that we have gotten in the past. So it all seems a bit short-sighted, and thus I'm very glad that you are connecting with the university and getting the geology department in on this. But I would like to add from a personal experience, I moved here in 2008 from Boone, North Carolina. At that point, they were just starting to see problems with development, and we had had some landslides and other problems. The development continued and accelerated, and we now know what has happened since then. That Boone has been majorly hit, Asheville, all of Western New York, there's been massive loss of life. The infrastructure is going to take years, and I believe they're quoting like billions of dollars. This is not the same scale, but it certainly seems like something that is dangerous to even toy with at this point, especially since that drains into and through the village itself. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes, unless there's anybody else. Did you want to speak? I'm sorry, Jim. Jim Linden. Not intentional. This time.
That's quite okay. This time. James Linden. Hi, good evening. While back, the mayor, when he first took office, he decided to put the workshops on Wednesdays in the mornings, and he said that it would help to have better discussions and have less opportunities for walk-on resolutions and such. And the discussions I find that have actually been very limited and almost dysfunctional as a board. And the walk-ons have been almost continuous. I mean, there's another one on tonight, but the mayor said, well, you need to dot the i's and cross the t's. Well, then why isn't that happening in the workshops when you should be doing that and not having these walk-ons? Like I said, there's been numerous throughout the year and many meetings. And so anyhow, there was an opportunity for discussion about the North County Water District and the emergency connections at this last workshop. And the department head was there, could have answered the questions. Nothing of this discussion was had. Trustee Asperson said, I'll discuss my research at this coming meeting. Well, that's not a discussion of a workshop. That's the trustees should all know what's going on prior to him coming and discussing his own opinions at the workshop or at the meeting. So further on with having to do with the water, I'm hoping that they get it straightened out with the connections. And but as far as the water goes, all the new information with costs with the county and the city and all this other new information that has come up about, thank God nothing has happened prior to this, that we haven't lost the opportunity for the reservoir, save the reservoir. But the costs have become exorbitant. It's going to cost this village almost twice what you're paying currently to be involved with this North County Water District to buy water. And all those costs associated. They think there's claims of saving money on improvements. Well, our loss, if we were to have what we have now, we could support even buying without grants the improvements that we need and still spend less money than you're going to spend on it. Because with the costs, it's going to, with where they are now in Dunkirk, and both the county and Dunkirk are going to have to increase their costs. They're in desperate need of finances. So what's going to happen is you could, like I said, this board should step back, start working on finding grants or finding ways to fund or move forward with saving everything else that we need to do with our own reservoir. It's going to be far beneficial than spending an additional couple $1 million a year on a fishing expedition to go with other municipalities for the water that we could supply for ourselves and surrounding communities. So I'm asking that the board step back on this now. It's about time you woke up, realized that there's these costs that are going to be exorbitant, and put the money where it's needed. where we could make a big benefit for us, the village of Fredonia, not for, don't worry about what the county's doing or what Dunkirk's doing. They got their own problems. We don't need to deal with them anymore. We could certainly, like I said, when I figured out the numbers, the cost is way more based on what they're currently charging right now even. But with their new increases, it's going to be significantly more. So please take that into consideration and step back and take care of business in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes out tonight's public portion. Correspondence.
Correspondence dated November 4th, 2024 was received from Mayor Ferguson recommending appointments to the Fredonia Cable Board.
Be it resolved that the recommendation to appoint Brian and Emily Kewell, 19 Washington Avenue, Fredonia, New York, to the Fredonia Cable Advisory Board for a 2-year term is hereby approved. Both appointments shall expire in November of 2026.
Second.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Twitcher.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor's report, there's lots been going on, but I want to take the time to mention a couple of different things. Number one, we're proud to say that the White Inn is coming to completion. There's been a couple of soft opening events this week, and we are thankful to Steve St. George, Devin Jones, and their partners. We are thankful to many skilled people that have worked on this, from electricians, plumbers, craftspeople, woodworkers, iron workers, lighting, all the others. Millions of dollars that have gone into this. This is part of the revitalization of downtown. Also proud to, I was tracking the number of ribbon cuttings and new businesses that have opened in the downtown core just in the last 6 months. And we have 5, possibly 6 that have opened. My counting is correct. And I confirm this with the Chamber of Commerce. So those are good things for our community. We have got more good news this week as the hospital has requested to install their coming soon Brooks Hospital sign on the location that they have chosen. Myself, Trustee Esperson, attended the Veterans Day ceremonies at the American Legion yesterday, and the number of people who filled the lawn on Main Street was absolutely incredible. In the wind, in the rain, and that's not even touching on what the veterans have gone through in their various services, men and women around the world who continue to protect our rights and protect our country and protect those serving in the other countries. So we thank them as well. I can go on with the report. I'm going to have a long report next week, kind of giving you the details as to what we've been doing, what I've been doing in the last 2 weeks with regards to many of the things you spoke about tonight. We are having a business roundtable that will be starting on the 18th, and we'll move forward once a month, where we are inviting people from the downtown core who have businesses to come in and speak to us and join us, give us their vision of the direction that they would like to see, things that maybe they disagree with, things that they feel that we may need to change or improve. We think that this is a step forward in continuing to make downtown, our core, more attractive, better suitable, not only for new business, but one of the most important things in the community is to maintain the businesses that are already here. So we will update you on those meetings as they move forward, and I thank everybody for their involvement in them. Trustee committee reports. Trustee Brockler.
I've been meeting individually with some business owners, just walking around and talking to some folks, and I think there's a certain amount of enthusiasm for the village and the way things are going here, so that's really great news, and I'm pleased to see it. Looking forward to seeing how the business roundtables go, and very much to the opening of the White Inn.
Trustee Twitchell.
Yes. I've reviewed the village's draft solar law. There are several issues concerning industrial solar facilities which I feel are not adequately discussed in the draft. These include setback distance, environmental monitoring, property values, environmental impact statement, and decommissioning. I've shared each concern in brief detail with everyone on this board. These concerns have also been forwarded to the planning board as they work to complete the solar law prior to its approval by this board. And I just wanted to mention that the planning board will be meeting next Tuesday here at Village Hall at 5:30 on the second floor. And anyone from the public is invited to come and listen. And also, I received a number of phone calls and emails expressing concerns about logging the reservoir forest. Since there was not enough time between Wednesday's workshop and tonight's meeting to request the clerk to read written statements, I will use my report time to read a written statement I received today. And this is from Dr. Jonathan Townsend, who spoke earlier this evening. Dear Village of Fredonia representatives, my name is Dr. Jonathan Townsend. I'm a neighboring landowner of the village's reservoir property where my wife and I operate Royal Fern Nursery, LLC, at 8852 and 888 Glasgow Road. I'm an experienced biologist with a background in land management, biological surveys, and invasive species control. I'm extremely concerned that a timber harvest at the village's reservoir forest is back up for discussion. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my concerns regarding this issue. First, it is rather unusual for a forested buffer around a public drinking water supply to also be used for timber revenue. They aren't necessarily compatible land uses, and larger municipalities like New York City work very hard to protect their reservoir forests, as these forests are essential for maintaining water quality. I understand that there has been some discussion regarding future use of the reservoir for the village's drinking water. I would point out it will take years to switch over to Lake Erie water if that does happen. So the village needs to consider current water quality issues at the reservoir very carefully, regardless of the outcome of that discussion. Timber harvests are frequently described as necessary to maintain forest health, and that is not entirely an accurate statement. There is a difference in perspective between what an ecologist and a forester consider a healthy forest. Neither perspective is right or wrong. There are many shades of gray when it comes to managing a forest and what determines forest health. Ultimately, the reservoir is healthy, with mature trees, including massive ancient hemlocks, and a vibrant understory of native shrubs and sensitive forest flowers. The reservoir forest is an ecological gem. There are two major resource concerns that may affect the future health of this forest: erosion and invasive species. Neither of these resource concerns would be improved with the timber harvest. In fact, of these resource concerns would be exacerbated by a timber harvest. The fact that the forest is currently thriving means that a timber harvest would be conducted solely for the timber revenue. The health of the forest would be negatively impacted through a timber harvest, potentially requiring ongoing monitoring and stewardship to address these issues in the future. Timber harvests don't just result in the removal of trees. The trees need to be felled, limbed, and hauled out. Forestry access roads would need to be used, and the logs would need to be hauled to these roads to load them onto skidders. All of this collectively results in a number of environmental impacts via soil disturbance and vehicle movement. On the steep slopes found at the reservoir forest, this can become very problematic. Forestry actions would allow invasive species to enter the understory and flourish, destroying the wildflower communities, while impacting the erodible soils that are situated on the steep slopes, resulting in erosion and or landslides. Runoff from the erosion would serve to degrade the reservoir's water quality and worsen existing sedimentation issues. The ecology of the forest would be irrevocably altered for the worse from the resulting influx of invasive species. Given the steep slopes and soil structure found there, I have concerns about landslides that may impact my property on Glasgow Road. I want to stress that I am not opposed to forestry actions. We all use wood and paper products. However, for a number of reasons, forestry actions at the reservoir forest are ill-advised at best and may lead to unintended consequences that render the reservoir unusable as drinking water supply. As an environmental professional with over 2 decades of experience, I strongly advise against timber harvest at this forest. Should the village be interested in alternative revenue streams, I recommend 2 approaches. 1, get the reservoir forest enrolled in a carbon sequestration program that could provide annual revenue on per acre basis of forest land, several $100s per acre per year. This would protect the forest while providing revenue to the village. 2, if the village is interested in timber revenue, I recommended establishing a community forest or a municipally owned forest that can be used for timber revenue while allowing for other land uses like recreation. These programs can be funded through New York State, which provides grants for acquisition and management of these forests. This would not only provide revenue to the village, it could be an educational opportunity to display best management practices for sustainable forestry while providing outdoor recreation for all in the region. Thank you for your time. I'd be happy to provide my expertise if you wanted assistance in developing the ideas. Please feel free to contact me. Sincerely, Dr. Jonathan Townsend. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Trustee Syracuse.
No report tonight.
Trustee Wendell.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to make it clear that I agree with Trustee Esperson's statement about tabling the for-con forestry. I also want to say that thank you for coming and sharing your comments. I'm listening to feedback. I know there's pros and cons on everything in this village, and we certainly have a lot of things to consider and a lot of business to take care of. So regarding the forestry issue, I'm definitely thinking that we need to step back and look at it very carefully and make the right decision. Regarding report, I only have one report. It's a DPW report, and I'd just like to read it for tonight. Regarding the wastewater treatment plant, recently there was a major truck repair, and the reason why the WWTP has a dump truck is for the removal, transport of their waste into a landfill. And I believe that truck runs every other day, so it's vital to the operation of our wastewater treatment plant. So recently, over $8,000 repair was done. I spoke with the supervisor. I visited the plant, spent the day there on Friday, this past Friday, and they anticipate having the truck back in service hopefully this week, so that's a good thing. There was a power backup project for some of the equipment within the plant, and that is unfortunately on hold. What happens is if the plant loses power, and that does happen occasionally, they have a backup power generator. But not all of the plant is on backup power, meaning that if they fail with power, some of the subsystems are not going to be backed up properly. So they're going to have to be manually operated or brought online manually. So they meaning the wastewater treatment plant supervisor, is working with Beck Electric to get a quote for that work to be done. It was never done 4 years ago, so that is something that is in process. And it's pretty vital to mission critical part of the operation of the plant. Regarding major work issues for next year, 2025, there's two major aspects of major work that need to be done, and they are the ferric acid tank inspections. Ferric acid is a component used for the processing of waste, and it's actually an acid, and it's used in their process. And the problem is the holding tanks are original to the plant, which was constructed in 1978. And there is concern that these vessels and the corresponding piping may not be able to pass upcoming inspection, which is approximately June of 2025. So it's about 7 months away. So that is something that's being looked at, and it's a proactive action item on the list, but it's something that we need to be aware of. There's a possibility there could be a major capital expense required to bring it up to standards. The other is something called wet testing for next year. And wet testing, what that means is whole effluent toxicity. It's an acronym, WET, W-E-T, and that's required by the New York State DEC and the EPA. And what that means basically is they look at what we have for a permit to operate our wastewater plant. After the whole processing of wastewater, effluent is something that is discharged back into Lake Erie. And the quality of that discharged water, that effluent, has to pass environmental standards based on the state DEC and the EPA. So what that means for the plant is they have to find a qualified inspector for that process of the wet testing, and then they would have to run the tests, and they're done once a quarter for 4 quarters continuous. This is done every 5 years. Next, the overall power consumption for the plant has trended down from the previous year, so that's 2024 versus 2023, and that's a good thing. We're at least the metrics show that we're consuming less power in the plant, and they have undergone certain aspects of running more efficiently with their power consumption. The power backup generator that I referred to earlier is tested monthly. There was some kind of issue revealed in the last testing. Their maintenance staff was able to work the minor repairs, and the generator testing went well. These things may sound rather, technical and whatever, but they're really important. It's really preventative maintenance, and I've said this before, if that plant does go down, we're in trouble. There's also an effort where the plant supervisor, David Felt, is working with our treasurer, Alyssa, to seek out grant funding for the plant's long-term capital projects. The metal tanks, Mayor, I know that you saw those tanks when we visited the plant a few months back. They're still being considered for scrap, but my last observation there just this past week show that there would be quite an effort to basically remove them from the plant. And I don't know, that's still being considered, but I'm not sure how practical that may be. And the last thing is the documentation in the plant. That is the plant drawings for the just all the piping systems, the electrical drawings are in very rough shape. And many of them are going back to 1978. So I'm going to be working with the plant supervisor. One of the things I recommend is to E-size drawings. I don't know if everybody knows what an E-size drawing is. It's a large, about that wide by that high. They're architectural and blueprint type drawings. That I recommend that they be scanned and digitized, so that then they can be organized properly, as well as the hard copies, but to have a backup. So a very necessary and important part of the plant operation. I believe that's it. Overall, the plant is functioning well. The supervisor and his crew are doing good work in regards to the operation and maintenance. The power backup and especially the ferric acid projects are needed and forthcoming. It is good to see their proactive approach, and I am happy to help them along the way. That's it.
Thank you. I do want to suggest, Paul, I was there when we both saw that the acid tanks were,
Yeah.
the expert that was touring with us stated that it was highly unlikely that they would pass, much less be functional. And we are talking about acid. So I would suggest that, that David get together with Alyssa and that he starts seeking out pricing for those, so that we can get.
Yeah, for Alyssa, I don't know, has he
necessity.
contacted you?
Yes.
Okay.
He has?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So we'll be on that, we'll monitor that, and
And possibly the gentleman that was here from North Tonawanda might have some.
in fact, I did
Resources.
discuss that with the supervisor, our plant supervisor, and he said that this week he would be contacting him for counsel on that.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Esperson.
Yeah, as I already communicated, I've been in touch with the geology and environmental science professors at Fredonia State regarding forestry management plan. We are meeting with them next week to explore a number of possible collaborative activities. So we'll see what that brings out, but I would definitely like to get those professors and their students involved in whatever it is we decide or talk about doing at the reservoir. So I was asked why I didn't give a report about the testing at the interconnects. Just to repeat, I'm doing this because Trustee Twitchell had a question about if testing was ever done. So I did some homework to find out when it was done. I didn't get all the answers until yesterday, or I'm sorry, Friday. So that's why I didn't report on it at the meeting. I did speak to Scott about it, but he didn't have all the answers I was looking for. So this is what we found out. And this is from Randy Woodbury and Eric Weiss, who were part of that testing. North County Water District, City of Dunkirk, Village of Fredonia used the contract option to do a trial exercise on the interconnect from Brockton toward Fredonia through Portland and Pomfret. What we found at the interconnect meter pit on Route 20 was that with the Brockton tank full, the pressure on the Brockton direction side was about 10 psi, less than the pressure on the Fredonia direct side. When the interconnect was open, the water flowed the meter backwards toward Brockton very slowly. We found that the Fredonia plant was running its pressure at that time using the elevation of its clear well rather than the Webster tank. We have observed before that the clear well elevation operation pressurizes Fredonia water to about 140 psi at the Vineyard Drive interconnect pump station. The Webster tank operation pressurizes Fredonia water to about 110 psi at the Vineyard pump station. Their recommendation is that check valves be installed at the east and west metered interconnects from the North County Water District toward Fredonia, so that any periods of Fredonia operating at its highest pressure configuration will not flow the meters backwards. The check valves would allow flow toward Fredonia as needed, as it operates at its more normal Webster tank operation pressures. So the obvious next question is, if we decide to do that, follows recommendations in case of a boil water order, or there's a reason we need to get water from the North County Water District if there's a water main break. How do we fix that problem now? They're recommending check valves. Randy told me the price of those check valves is not too bad. He said they're about $1,000. Installation isn't that expensive. But the determination, if we decide to do that, needs to be made. Who's responsible to cover those costs? Pomfret, Fredonia, North County Water District, Brockton. Probably, if it's a collaborative effort, we could probably do it for less than $1,000 per entity. But I'll try to get some costs, and then we can discuss that further. But that was the result of the testing. That's all I've got.
Thank you for your reports. One statement that I want to make with regards to two things. Number one, the walk-on resolution today is being requested by the New York Commission of Mayors to try to save state aid, and there is a deadline. Deadline, like many things having to do with the government, is due in about 2 days. So therefore, a walk-in was necessary for today. That happens in government, no matter how far you prepare. Secondly, Dotting i's and crossing t's, as was mentioned, is partially my responsibility. And part of my discussion is why this community entered into a contract with Forcon to do work, paid for that contract, and then nothing was ever done. Contract wasn't canceled, contract wasn't executed, and the monies weren't clawed back and retracted back to the community. It was done again 4 years later. And now we're going to have to find out whether that contract too, if it exists, was paid for again, to the tune of over $5,000 between two contracts. So not dotting i's and crossing t's has been going on for a long time. And it's our due diligence to try to stop that. So while everybody has very good concerns about the foresting, and we respect it and we listen to it, and as I spoke to Dr. Townsend, we will hold discussions, and Ms. Zerman, you're welcome to be a part of those as well, because we need to be educated in this before decisions are made. My duty as mayor is to find out why, where, when, and how happened to these contracts, and happened to the money associated with those contracts. So we will follow up with that. Thank you for your reports, and let's move on. We have an additional treasurer's report. Do you have anything today?
Just want to say that our asset management system has everything uploaded. I'm just working on cleaning it up, making sure everything's in the right departments. Going to add all of the maintenance information from the past couple of years just to have that, and then moving forward we'll keep that up to date. This will save us about $2,000 to $3,000 a year from paying industrial appraisal. And we will also, our insurance company will be coming to appraise all of our buildings, which will not cost us anything, so all of that information will be up to date as well. And that's it.
Thank you. Additional reports.
Can I say something to the board?
Sure.
Okay. There was a resolution passed by this board regarding walk-on resolutions. If it has a financial impact on the village, negative or positive, or the health and welfare of residents, it can be walked on. So they passed a resolution allowing walk-ons. So I just want to remind everybody that that was passed, so that's basically a law. Okay. Village of Fredonia Justice Court report for the month of October 2024. Total number of cases closed, 117. Of those, vehicle and traffic, 72. Criminal cases, 30. Village ordinances, 9. Civil cases, 4. ABC laws, 2. Total fines and surcharges, $5,230. Parking ticket fines, I have a zero balance here because the computer was broken. Total, $5,230. That's all I have for reports.
Thank you. Resolutions.
Be it resolved that the termination of Jasmine Griffith, Fredonia dog catcher, is hereby approved, effective immediately.
Second.
Trustee Brockman?
Aye.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Wandell?
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell?
Aye. Be it resolved that the village clerk is hereby authorized to advertise for the dog catcher position for the village of Fredonia.
Second.
Trustee Brockman?
Aye.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Wandell?
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell?
Aye.
Be it resolved that pursuant to Section 5520 of Village Law, the following budget transfers are hereby approved. $5,000 from G8120.2 sanitary sewer overtime to G8120.44 sanitary sewer, and $1,500 from G8120.49 sanitary sewer equipment to G8120.44 sanitary sewer.
Second.
Trustee Twitchell?
Aye.
Trustee Wandell?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Trustee Brockman?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the request to send David Felt, Chief Operator at the wastewater treatment plant, and Kenny Porter, Senior Operator, to Harbor Hotel, Celeron, New York, on November 13, 2024, to attend the Chautauqua County Professional Waterworks Association workshop not to exceed the cost of mileage, $42.21, is hereby approved.
Second.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Waddell.
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
Be resolved that the request to send Louis Fred, Chief Operator, Jonah Brock, and Marcus Bentley, Plant Operators, to Harbor Hotel, Silver End, New York, on November 13th, 2024, to attend the Chautauqua County Professional Waterworks Association workshop is hereby approved.
Second.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
Trustee Waddell.
Aye.
Whereas the state has referred to this new aid as temporary municipal assistance, suggesting that such increase may not continue jeopardizing the sustainability of crucial municipal programs and services, and whereas the property tax cap further limits the ability of local governments to properly fund the programs and services their residents need, and whereas increased and ongoing state aid for local governments is vital for maintaining infrastructure, public safety, housing, and other municipal services, and whereas the challenges of inflation, the increasing costs of labor and supplies, and the end of extraordinary federal aid only accentuate the need for consistent and predictable funding to effectively plan for the future and meet the growing needs of their residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village of Fredonia calls upon the governor and the state legislator to commit to continuing the additional $50 million in unrestricted state aid in the 2025-26 state budget and beyond, and be it further resolved that the Village of Fredonia urges state officials to recognize the need for a long-term plan that ensures consistent and predictable increases in financial support for local governments that keep pace with inflation.
Second.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Waddell.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
I believe that's the last thing you had tonight, correct? With that, can I have a motion to end tonight's session?
I make a motion we enter an executive session to discuss employment at the water treatment plant.
Second.
Okay. Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Waddell.
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
So be it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attendance tonight, your input. We look forward to working with you on these projects and keeping you informed with what's happening.